Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and boy do we ever have something epic to take a look at today, as we've got another of these Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire figures to take a look at. This time we have the Heat Ray Breath RC Godzilla from Jada Toys, and this is the one figure I think out of all of the Godzillas that are coming out for this film, the one I was most excited about, because from what I've seen from the Jada Toys advertisement, this thing looks awesome. And honestly, looking at it here in person, the sculpt is really well done. It's definitely the nicest looking sculpt out of any of the new Godzilla and Kong figures. I really think this one, sculpt-wise, looks probably the best. And you can see it has quite the presence to it as well, and it's pretty darn gigantic, which something that I didn't quite expect. But you can see we've got some really nice box art that follows pretty much the same style as what we saw from the Playmates toys, and of course a big open area with the Godzilla, and then you can see all of these really neat images over here. On the side, you've got another really cool image of Godzilla. And then on the other side, pretty much the same thing. Again, another cool Godzilla image. And then here on the back, even though the lights are kind of glaring away the detail, you can see another shot of our RC Godzilla, as well as some images and stuff showing off some of the aspects of the figure, like the fact that we have simulated heat ray breath, energy, spines, realistic stomping action, and a tail whip action. So let's go ahead and pop this out of the box and we'll check it out. So here is our absolutely gigantic Godzilla. We also have the remote control, and we've got this little dealie here so that we can put some water into him, I guess, to create the atomic breath. But out of the packaging, it looks awesome. Like, even considering the fact that it has that kind of slight separation there in the midsection for obviously some form of action feature, it looks so unbelievably impressive here in person. It is definitely my favorite of any of these Godzilla and Kong New Empire figures that I've seen so far. Like, it just looks really, really cool. The sculpting and detailing looks better as well than what we see on the Playmates toys. There's just more actual sculpt, and especially up near the head and neck region, I just feel like it looks a lot more impressive. So what we're going to do is go ahead and take a closer look at the figure, and then we'll check out the actual playability of it. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Godzilla, you can see it does have that kind of look to the face here where it's obviously letting out the atomic breath. One unfortunate aspect to the figure, first of all, there's like something right there on the side of it. One unfortunate, oh boy, it didn't come off. I don't know if that's glue or what that is. But one unfortunate aspect of the figure is you can see the teeth are not painted for some reason. I'm not too sure why. It would have been nice to see that, especially since, you know, the eyes actually have some decent paintwork to them. I don't know if they're the best painted eyes in the world, but they do have some decent paintwork to them, with a what looks to be a white, then a yellow, then a black, and then a white spot on the black pupil to try to give it a little bit of eye shine, I guess. If we take a look here at the inside of the mouth, you can see we have a nice translucent red tongue. I think that will help to, you know, illuminate the inside of the mouth once we do the atomic breath gimmick. And you can also see that we've got some pinkish tones there for the inside of the mouth. Elsewhere, I don't know what the top of the inside of the mouth looks like. It's really hard to look around at this figure because it's so huge. So it's you can see we actually have the red translucent look there for the top as well of the inside of the mouth. One thing I do really like about this figure, though, as you lead back, you can see all the little ridges and stuff here on the head are actually really quite impressive looking, like they really pop on the sculpt. And it continues to look that way as you move through the course of the figure. All of the detail is really well done. Jada Toys absolutely pulled off a pretty darn nice looking sculpt, and you can also see that we have those gills that you see for Godzilla. And one thing you'll notice is the fact that the Godzilla is black, but you have a light gray dry brushing, and it's in some places a little more obvious than others, in some places a little more intense than others, but you can see it right here on the gills as you lead back. As you lead up here, you can see the area where I think we would put the water for the atomic breath. You can also see that the spines of Godzilla have a pinkish tone, kind of more of a light pinkish tone than what we do see in the film, but
I think once we actually have Godzilla light up, they'll probably be a bit of a darker pink. The spines do look really cool. They definitely have a very nice look to them as far as the fine detail goes. Maybe not the most textured thing in the world, but they do look good for what they are. Again, it is just a very cool RC Godzilla, so I don't expect a masterpiece. Moving down here into the arms, again, the skin texture does continue to look pretty darn good. And you can also see those ridges leading off of the back of the elbow of Godzilla, again painted with that pinkish tone, leading down into the hands of Godzilla. You can see the fingers are very nicely sculpted, the nails are as well. No paintwork like we had seen on the Playmates version recently though, but it does still look quite nice. As you lead down, you can obviously see an area of separation here. This, I would imagine, is an area where the figure's probably going to move or something along those lines whenever we get to that point. You can continue to see more of that dry brushing as you move through, again showing up in a few different spots. Leading down here into the legs, you have those very nice scoot-like scales moving down through the course of the thigh. You can even make out a little muscle definition, I think, as well as more of that dry brushing, which you can really see the dry brushing up here. If the light wasn't shining off of it so bad, there you can really see it again, that grayish dry brushing, where they've added a little extra variation of color to the figure. As you lead down, you can see the knee. You can also see the calf muscle, nice and big and bulging, and again, that nice dry brushing over it. And then you lead down into the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt also looks really well done. You can see even that dry brushing has been applied to the nails of the Godzilla. And then as you lead back up, you've got a very impressive looking tail as you lead out, which I know this has some form of a tail whip action feature, so that's probably why we see this little area here where you can kind of maneuver the tail around. You can also see a little area of separation right here as well. And one thing that is pretty cool about the Godzilla, you can see I can actually squish this a little bit. So here's a hard plastic, here's a hard plastic, but this has a nice rubbery, real feel. And as you lead back up through the body, you can see the legs are a nice hard plastic, but the arms and the upper body are all that kind of soft, rubbery, real feel as well, which is definitely cool. But you lead out again through the course of the tail. The tail has some really nice curves to it. It is very long, absolutely a massive tail on our Godzilla. The pink continues to run along the upper side of the figure as you lead out toward that very interesting new tail that we have for Godzilla. If we take a look at the underside looks pretty decent, but I wouldn't say it's quite as nicely sculpted as we see on the upper side when it comes to fine detail. It does definitely have a bit of a muted look to it, especially as you move up here. You continue to see a bit of a muted look, but once you lead up into the stomach and chest where it's more of a rubber, you can definitely see again a much more impressive sculpt and fine detail. And then you can lead up there into the chest. The chest looks really cool. You can see all sorts of skin wrinkles and stuff as you lead up toward the neck. And you can see the throat here for Godzilla as well. Definitely looks awesome. Of course, once we come over here to the opposing side, you're going to see pretty much the same thing. If I can get the Godzilla back far enough to show that to you, you can see pretty much the same thing. Again, you're really not going to see much difference. The figure is almost completely in a neutral position at this point in time, because it's just kind of standing straight forward. The limbs are in the same positioning and everything. The arms are as well. You can't see how they kind of move because they're that soft rubber. And then you lead along here through the course of the tail. The only big difference is you do see a few screw holes on this side, more so than we saw on the other side. I don't remember seeing any on the other side, but there are a few on this side, unfortunately. Another thing that is actually really quite cool about the figure is the fact that the controller is Godzilla's foot. So that's definitely neat. I guess, yeah, that definitely looks like his foot, not his hand. And that's pretty darn cool as well. It does have some decent texturing and everything, just like the figure itself does, but definitely a neat little controller to go with our Godzilla.
Now, as far as the size goes, this is going to be pretty interesting because it is quite large. For a length from the snout to the tail, about 26 inches or about 66 centimeters. And then for a height, I think I'm going to have to turn it around to try to get a height on this. Try to push it back a little bit to the top of that spine right there, about 12¼ inches or around 31 centimeters, I think is the highest point. Kind of looks like that would be the highest point to me, and I do apologize if I happen to have bumped into the camera at all doing that. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being next to our Jada Toys RC Godzilla, and you can see exactly what I was speaking about. It is gigantic, like absolutely huge. And I don't know what figures I have that will really compare well with this. I mean, I don't have the larger Godzillas that were released prior when it comes to the Playmates line previously. I do have the newer one that was just released with the Godzilla X Kong New Empire figures, but it's not out of the package or anything quite yet. I'm going to be reviewing that one here within the next few days, so I haven't taken it out yet. Once I do take it out, I will bring in that one and this one for a comparison in that review. But for another comparison, of course, for this review, there is a size difference between the Battle Roar version of the Playmates Godzilla next to the Jada Toys version, which you can see the difference is huge, like absolutely insane how much bigger this Jada Toys version is. Even without the awesome action features and everything and gimmicks about this RC version, like this is still easily one of the coolest looking Godzilla figures I've ever seen. And then we've also got a Hiya Toys Godzilla here, again, to compare with this huge Jada Toys version, which at this point you can definitely see. Again, it's massive. I really don't know what I could compare with this figure that would even remotely do it justice. I just don't have a clue. Maybe a Mattel figure or two. I guess we could do that. There is the recently released male Tyrannosaurus from Mattel, which would be like the extreme chompin size range next to the Godzilla, which you can see again absolutely towers over that T-Rex. And then for one final comparison, we also have a Mattel Triceratops, because I know most people that watch my channel that collect Mattel at the very least should probably at least have one Triceratops in their collection, so hopefully that one will help to give you an idea of the size. Again, I will compare it with the larger Playmates version when I get to that review, once I film that review. Now we've gone ahead and dimmed some of the lights here so we can check this out and see how this Godzilla and its action features look, so let's go ahead and give that a shot. So here we go, we're going to start walking. Okay, so the walking aspect is awesome. I really like that. Of course, we've got the sounds of Godzilla walking, which is also really cool. Let's go ahead and check out the tail whip action feature. So you can use the controller here to push if you want to swing the tail toward the right, and then push the opposite way if you want to swing the controller, or I mean swing the tail, I'm sorry, to the left. And what's cool is when you actually do turn the tail and you do that whip action feature, it causes the Godzilla to actually turn and start walking in that direction. So I guess that's how we would actually turn our Godzilla. That's pretty neat as well. So let's actually bring this back here a little bit. Actually straighten the legs out a little. There we go. Got those legs straightened out. So we've got ourselves a nice little Godzilla roar. Now we're going to go ahead and do the heat ray, but I actually don't have the water in it yet. I'm going to do that here in a minute, but we'll just check the heat ray, you know, the whole ordeal here in a second. We'll check that out. Okay, that might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So at this point, I definitely need to get some water in, and I think I'm going to dim the lights completely. We'll just turn them off so we can check that light up feature out once without the lights on at all. So we'll see how it turns out here. Man, is that awesome. So now we've got some water in the mouth of our Godzilla, or in the body, I should say. We're going to go ahead and try out the atomic breath. That is so unbelievably cool. Man, Jada Toys did such an awesome job on this. I'm bringing the camera up here so we can get a little bit of a better visual of this happening. That seriously is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Just wanted to kind of give you guys a few different, opportunities to see it in different lighting and stuff. That is seriously one of the most epic things I've ever seen. So this brand new Godzilla X Kong, the new Empire Jada Toys RC Godzilla, is without a doubt one of the coolest toys that I have in my collection, and easily the coolest RC toy that I have. Like, I have some other remote controlled stuff like some Jurassic Park vehicles, as well as the Mosasaurus and a Raptor and stuff, but nothing can compete with this Godzilla. This thing is on another level. The sculpt and everything looks so good on this, in my opinion, like way better when it comes to the fine detail than the Playmates figures do. So straight out of the gate, the sculpt is very impressive, and even without using the actual RC aspects of the Godzilla, it's an incredible looking figure and really has an amazing presence to it. So right out of the gate, the sculpt is unbelievably nicely done on this. Again, some areas are slightly muted when it comes to the fine detail, but I don't think that really takes away from the figure. It is still one of the single most impressive Godzilla figures I've ever seen. The paintwork is also decent. There's nothing really amazing when it comes to the paintwork, There's some okay attempts at some different areas, like the mouth looks pretty alright, I guess. The eyes look pretty decent. Not amazing, and they're a little bit big, but they're nicely painted as far as what has been applied to them. The teeth definitely could have been painted, the nails could have been painted, but I really don't think that that's something that they care too much about. They were just aiming to create one of the coolest RC figures that exist, and I think they succeeded very nicely by doing that. I do like the fact that they tried to give it some dry brushing and everything here and there on the figure. That does look really cool, and at least shows that they were dedicated to giving it a little bit of variation of color. But of course, the really big selling point on top of the gigantic size and impressive appearance is the RC capabilities of the figure, and it works really nicely. The walking feature works really well. I love the fact that we have that stomping sound as we move through. The tail whip action also works really nicely. I could see if you set some stuff up and had your Godzilla walk through, when that tail whips over, it could definitely knock some stuff over, especially if you had like some small buildings or something you could put up there. That would be a really fun way to use this Godzilla and to play with it if you were going to go that route. The actual Godzilla roar sounds great on the figure as well, but of course the best part about this is the atomic breath and the fact that the spines load up as you move up through the course of the Godzilla, lighting up exactly as it does, or at least as far as what it seems like it does in the film. Of course, we even have the sound effects to go with it, and then the actual atomic breath itself looks super, super cool. The mouth and eyes and everything all lighting up just gives this Godzilla an amazing visual, and again, probably the coolest looking thing I've ever seen when it comes to a Godzilla toy. So I honestly cannot stress enough, if you are a Godzilla fan, you absolutely need to search this out. You absolutely need to add this to your collection. It is awesome. So if you are interested, head to your local Target, because that's where I purchased mine. I found it there. I think it was like right around $60, which is actually a really good deal for something this huge, but it's definitely around $60, I believe, at Target. So head to your local Target. Hopefully it's there. Absolutely pick it up if you can find it, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.